Thank you.
We were back in no time, right? So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing this beautiful film with us. On a personal note, I was deeply moved by it because, of course, it invites us to think deeply about our own relationships with our own mothers and a mother to her mother. And about the questions that we wish we could or had asked. So my first question is, and then I'm going to open it up in a little while, so please do be thinking. I know there's a lot to process, but please do be thinking about any questions that you'd like to pose to Céline. So I'm going to take you back to, in 2008, around Water Lilies, you said that memory was a good starting point for the story. 13 years later, Petite Maman examines memory among many other things, but also imagination. And I wonder if you can expand on the ideas behind memory and also the ghosts of the past being part of the present.
Well, whenever I hear a quote from me from 2008 or 2007, I find myself really, I look at it as I don't respect it that much. I mean, I do respect it. It's just that I see it as it's a little bit of archaeology of what I used to think about cinema and how it was a language that I was trying to understand and so I had more intuition than ideas, I think. And I guess at the time I was thinking about memories of teenagehood. I guess I was thinking about youth. I was thinking about the coming of age genre. Petite Maman is my fifth film, and I have very different thoughts about memories. And it's a paradox because it's my first film that actually works around actual ghosts, because the character of the grandmother is really based on my own grandmother. It's the first time that I actually experienced this thing of trying to, resurrect someone. Even the film was shot in my hometown, as Water Lilies was shot in my hometown. So this is the woods where I used to do shitty treehouse by myself. And even the flat, the house in the film it's studio, so we designed it all, and it's based on a form of synthesis, of fusion of the two spaces of my grandmother's. That's why it's a house, because my Italian grandmother on my father's side lived in a house, and my grandmother on the side of my mother, she lived in a flat. So it's the house with the circulation of a flat. What house has this big corridor in it? I mean, come on, who is the architect? So it's actually the film that is based on my own memories, but now I really believe that my films are more and more about time and memory and loss, but it's mostly about the time we share, the memory we built here and now together, and the loss, your loss. It's not about my loss. So now I see more and more film as an architecture of time for giving us new archives, new memories. And this is designed so that my own personal memories, they are anecdotes, they are trivia that we can share, because now we share something, we share this story. But they're not that important. I'm really trying to give you an experience of time, and especially with this film that is kind of a little, a new device that you can use, that is kind of a pocket device that you can take home. You know, I have a friend that told me that now, after she saw the film, each time she's in some kind of fight or tension with her father, she just pictures herself doing a treehouse with him, and things are good. And that's the kind of new memories. That's the kind I'm always trying to, now with my films, I want to give you the memory of the film, and that the memory of the film, which is also the memory of your emotions with the film, your own story in dialogue with the films, how this helps you change, grow, have this new, even therapeutical tool, which is fiction, you know, to grieve or to expand or to transform. And he really tried to create this thing as a projection for future memories, the ones that you're going to imagine, whether your mother or grandmothers, they're still alive, dead. If you have good relationship, bad relationship, you can still have new memories, new patterns, thanks to fiction.
And this idea of getting to know your mother as a child your own age, tell us where that came from. Yeah, it's a very kind of particular device that you're using, like you say. Tell us where that idea came from.
Well, it just hit me. I was in a room like that. I was at a ceremony. I was at an award ceremony, actually. And for my life as a courgette, or as a zucchini, I don't know, you say it here? I think you say courgette here. Yeah. So I was really, really connected to this experience of writing that I had, and also promoting this film, which was the first time that I'd written for a kid audience in mind, officially. And it expanded the way I see writing for cinema. And it really impacted my screenwriting. It impacted Portrait of a Lady on Fire, because the ethics of writing for kids, I think, is the ethics of a relationship with a kid, whatever. If you expand it to the world, you're good. You're good. You're in a better place. So this idea of creating fictions that are very democratic, very welcoming, and fictions that have safe space really came after that experience that I had. And so at some point I was just kind of daydreaming in that ceremony, and this image hit me. And this image was exactly this image, with two little girls building a tree house in the woods, and they were the same age. And obviously, as I pictured this, one was the mother and one was the kid. And this idea felt coming from a very, very ancient time. It felt like a mythological idea. And I was like, oh, this idea must have been told like so many times. And I'm sure it has. But it has not been handed to us. This is a matriarchal mythology that wasn't handed to us, you know. And it felt such a powerful, healing, peaceful, troubling idea. It was a lot of feelings involved, and it felt very ancient and also very new. And the scripts just started rolling in my head with my personal story, and also one that felt really universal. And I never had such a feeling, I think. It was quite magical, I must say. And it was 5 years ago, so I hold on to that. I was in the middle of writing Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I was struggling with this writing. It was very hard, and had the temptation to actually go for that very simple and small idea. But I said, no, this will be where I land. And this idea was like a very warm future, full of tenderness. And it really helped me craft this other film, and that's also, you know, why I went so fast. Because I was kind of tired after Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and then COVID happened, and I'd written the beginning of this script, and it started with this very young kid saying goodbye to a lot of women in a nursing home. And then when COVID happened, suddenly that scene happened. I mean, that scene didn't happen because we didn't get to say goodbye, but this idea was suddenly charged with a new reality. And it's that scene that felt really personal to me. Felt suddenly collectively charged and needed also. And so this film that felt timeless, that felt like this modern fairy tale, suddenly became needed, I don't know, urgent. And that's why I rushed. That's very long answers, you see. It's for shy people.
And if we could go back to the two girls, because the two performances in this are obviously key, and they're stunning. I mean, I think you obviously have a way of working with children and child actors and bringing out performances that reveal such an incredible emotional intelligence, and yet somehow manage to remain convincing as children. And yeah, so I wondered your approach to casting, what in the Sands twins, like what were you looking for? How did you work with them to develop those performances? And how much of the story also were they aware of?
The idea that I had for casting was that I wanted sisters, because that was my personal question writing the film. It was like, if I meet my mother at 8 years old, would she be my sister? And would we share the same mother? So I decided to embody this idea in casting. Also because I felt good working with one family. It felt good giving each of these two kids that had kind of have a lot of their shoulders, a safe space to work with somebody they trust. And we also said that twin sisters were welcome. And then Josephine and Gabrielle happened. It was just an ad that we put on social media. And my luck is that I just met them. But of course, if you meet these two, you go for it, right? And also, I don't test kids during the casting process. I'm not trying to see if they're good or bad readers or actors, because obviously they'll be good. Kids know how to play and how to perform. So it's not about that. It's really about, do they want to do this? Do they have something at stake for them? Do they get it? So basically, I met them and then called them back and said, for me, you have the part. I don't have to, it's not. And now we're gonna read the script, and if you feel good about the script and we talk about it, then we go for it. And we just read the script. And it was an amazing read, very emotional. And they said, yeah, we want to do it. And they really got it. I mean, it's obviously they have to get it. If they didn't, because we didn't rehearse, so we just went on the set. We started with all the exterior sequences, which means it's walking, doing a little bit of, so there's things that are, simple, but there's also are you coming from the future? I'm your child. It's this is day 2. Day 1 was, let's run under the rain. Let's have this very long track shot with fake rain over 8 years old, would know nothing about cinema. And let's do that. And so the first, the difficulty of working with kids is just you have to be aware that they're just going to learn the job for the first 3 days. Learning the job means the protocol, what's a team, and that's why I don't rehearse with kids, because cinema is it's about having 20 people looking at you doing your job and a camera. So you can rehearse all you want in a room. You're not giving them the right thing, right? They don't have the right experience. They don't know about it. So I'm not pretending that we can actually prepare, and also really trust them. It's also, I think, a way of really trusting them and make them feel full confident, you got this. As I do the costume design myself, that's most of the conversation we have during preparation. That's also why I do it, from the fact that I love shopping. And that it's also a way for me to start conversation with all my collaborators, because I start with the costume design, and then, that's how we talk about the image, the lighting, the colors. So no, we just, I'm dressing them up and looking at how do they enjoy wearing those kind of trousers. And so we just build the characters to the silhouette. And then it's about sharing ideas. So it's about them getting it all. The only time that I got rid of an idea was when they were like, I don't understand that sentence. And usually it's not a sentence, it's an idea. For instance, the only thing that I really remember getting rid of that was something that I kind of liked, that I cared about, was when they're in the bed in the end, and and Marion is, it's night, and it's their last night together before they go to the pyramid, which is also in my hometown, crazy hometown. They're both in bed, and she's saying, did I wanted you? And she said, yes. And in the end, little Marion was saying, do people tell you when you'll have kids? And the other one was saying yes, and then they would laugh. And they didn't get that. And I was like, okay, it's a good thing. Maybe now people don't tell 8 years old when you'll have kids, because they were like, no. So I just got rid of it. And most of the times, because, my stories are character-driven, but they're not. It's not about watching the emotion of the character. It's about your emotion watching a character in a situation. So that's how I work with kids. That's how I write for kids. I write them characters with dialogues. Everyone's like, oh, is this impro? Are they great? Are they great by themselves? Of course they're great by themselves. But if you respect the kid as an actor, you're writing lines, characters, some things they can stand for, something they can also protect themselves in. So we would only talk about ideas in cinema. So it's not about you're scared or you're sad or at that moment that's your mom, but you feel like this is a spy film, this is a horror film, this is like a love scene. So it's about sharing ideas for cinema and understanding. So the first 3 days you watch them learn the job, and hopefully you see them enjoying it. So it's about really learning how to walk in front of the camera, and then at some point you see them getting the language and the rhythm of the film, which is something that you build together. Because that's what mostly we talk about. We talk about rhythm, because that's what we talk about with actors. It's the same if we work with Joséphine Sans or Adèle Haenel. It's not about the scene is this and this. It's about you have to walk from here to there. That's what's at stake. That's the rhythm of the scene. That's how we're gonna edit it or stage it. And so it's the same. It's really the same. And at some point, something happens, and I can't date it, but I remember which scene it is. It's the scene where that's the moment when you're like, okay, this is now a full collaboration. At some point in the film, she wakes up in the bed of her grandmother. She's lying on her stomach, and she wakes up and she goes to her room, and her father is sleeping in her bed, and she puts the blanket on him. That's a long take. And waking up is hard, in cinema, and that's some kind of rhythm. Was she? And I just said, you wake up in the rhythm of the film. And she did this thing that you saw. I think that's the first take. Really waking up, taking the time, walking like that, and that's it. She knows about the rhythm of the film, and she's making proposition about it. And frankly, that's why working with kids is so fulfilling. Is that you get to see this thing, there's no ego there, and they're not supposed to know. So you get to access how this language is built in the most genuine way. They worked a lot. They're very, and they worked, the beauty of it was that they were working together, but not playing sisters, which was also, I think, respectful for them. But they were also, Joséphine was also the lead, so she was also working a lot by herself. And it's amazing to see a kid gain autonomy. I think that's the most beautiful feeling in the world. I don't have kids, so I have this feeling through work. I hope you get this as parent also, Thank you for laughing.
Should we open up for questions? We've got one there just in this second row. Sorry, second from the front. First. It's okay. Sorry, we'll just wait for the mic.
Hi. Firstly, this film hit me a lot as not as just as a daughter, but as a twin sister and somebody who worked in a care home during the pandemic. I had a lot of those goodbyes without realizing they were goodbyes. I was just wondering, did you decide pretty quickly which twin would play the mother and the daughter? Like, did they give off those, like, did they settle into a preference quite quickly? Like, when did you make that decision?
Well, yeah, that was what was stunning when I met them. When I met them, I was outside COVID, and they they were walking towards me, and my casting director she hadn't shown me any images. She was like, they're just two great kids, and they were walking, and I was like, oh, Nelly, Marion. It was obvious. And I think because it was, and I think it's something we then worked on together, one felt more contemporary. I don't know why. Or maybe I know why, I don't know, but I won't tell you. and I told them straight away that I was offering them this part and this part. And I think they agreed. I think it was kind of an organic thing, and I'm really glad that it was part of the choice. It was, but also because I see casting, and that's as a process of welcoming an idea. You put ideas in the world, and the fact that it's my 5th film, and I've been working with kids before. Those kids that come in the room, they've seen Tomboy, they've seen My Life as a Zucchini, so they know that they're coming for your film. They're not coming for cinema. And so they have an idea when they come in the room, and I just welcome their idea. I think it was the most obvious decision, which felt really comfortable, I must say. Yeah.
Thank you. I think and then just in front. Yeah.
Hello.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming. You talked about this idea coming to you while you were writing Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And I wonder if you can share your technique for coming back to ideas after the fact, maybe like heating up ideas that have become a little bit cold. Thank you.
Well, I think it's a balanced process between dreaming for a long time about an idea and feeling it alive, which means like you should stick to it. You don't feel like you have to warm it up because you've been thinking about it and expanding it, and it's fun. Also because it's virtual so far, so enjoy this thing of thinking about it and seeing it as only a good thing in a way, the idea that you daydream about. And then it's about acknowledging the fact that even though it's an idea you might have like 10 years ago, it's the idea that it belongs to today, and why. And it's not about the ideas being legitimate today, less or more than it's about. It's the new thing you do. So, for instance, I had this idea, 5 years ago, but for me, it's definitely a film that I've made after Portrait of a Lady on Fire that has learned from that film. And then there's something about what's happening in the world and how do you link that to the world politically. And clearly, this idea of kids and elders being hit very violently by this pandemic, politically also, was the fuel I would never have expected years ago, obviously. So yeah, it's about really knowing the heart of what your heart in this, and then being very, very open to the contemporary. And finding, a reason to do it. Not finding it, knowing the reason to do it here and now, I think. And that's an advice I would give in life in general. not only with fiction, just with attitude. But it's the first time actually that I lived so long with an idea in my mind that I didn't write, and I really liked it. I wish it would happen more. I'd find it. You should love the idea that you carry with you long. Don't resent them. Don't judge them for not being there in the world already. If they're still in there, you gotta find a way to put it out there, and it will happen. And if it hasn't happened yet, not because of you, maybe because of context, maybe because of, the fact that cinema is so expensive and that no one, it's hard to get access to it. There's no microwave for ideas. It shouldn't feel like that. You should be, if it's still alive, and if it feels morbid, just leave it. Just also, for your personal health.
Any more questions? So we'll take some from towards the back. We've got, sorry, somebody over there on the left, the back. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your answers so far. I'm over here. I was wondering, the film, it has such a sadness, but also a real ease and a kind of tranquility. And I wondered if there were any parts of the film that you found really difficult or challenging to write or to film.
Not really, but maybe that's why you feel like that. I mean, I think you feel it, and it's not a quality. Huh? I'm not saying it's a quality. I guess some films look like fights, and it's good. It feels good. They make you want to fight. But I was looking for that kind of feeling of serenity and peace, and making it look like it's easy to make fiction and cinema, because it's not because it's a privilege that it should be hard, that it should look hard. And I wanted to give that feeling of confidence that I had. I must say I had it. I've benefited from, I had like a strong experience with my previous film, and I decided that I would put the confidence that I was given in a film and see how that felt. How does it feel to do it like very smooth, obvious thing? Does it mean that it's difficult to shoot with kids? I don't want to make it seem like, because mostly you only have 3 hours a day. So you have to be super ready. You have to be very accurate about what you want. And because you have a very short amount of time to do it, and you should do it. It's not unfair. It's not something that's not a stupid law or whatever. It's like, no, it's 3 hours. It feels fair. So it's my 5th film, so now I feel like experimented enough that I can be serene and peaceful, even though doing something that feels bumpy and scary. But you got to keep that pace, especially if you're working with kids. I think, working with kids has always puts you in a state where the center is at the right place. I don't know, so no, there's no hidden missing negative vocabulary here, which is good. There's no hidden anxiety in the film. Emotions. It was very emotional, and I was kind of not showing it, that's for sure. But that's good, right?
And while we're talking about the production of the film, and you've been talking about the collaboration with the 2 actors, could we talk a bit about your kind of the approach to the film visually, and your collaboration with Claire Mathon, who you worked with? This is the 2nd time after Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So I'm interested in the kind of visual approach to the film, particularly sort of the doubling of the house, the doubling of the characters. We talked about, I know that you did the costumes. Could talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, the thing that was really hard to process with this film and hard to communicate it was that it was a kind of a time-traveling film, but in a timeless film, which is very counterintuitive, very hard to explain in a way. Because I really wanted the kid from the 50s and a kid from 2021 to connect to the story and said, this is my world. So it means you have to create a time-traveling film without tourism in a specific period of time and to create a common space and time, which was 50 years of French interior design and costumes. I was looking for doing the costumes. I was looking at school photos on the internet, on those Facebook for former kids. I don't know if you have those, but where you can just, find your former schoolmates. And there's a lot of pictures, and I would look at 50 years of school pictures from the suburbs of Paris, just to see the common point. And for instance, the sneakers of Little Marion, you could buy them in 1950, and you can buy them today. In Mercer Street, actually. They're super guys. And that was the idea. So it means like it's not two houses, it's going to be one house. And the house from the present is not going to be aged. And each thing, how do you call this thing to switch off the light? Button to switch off the light or switch on the light? Light switch. These things, every light switch I chose in this film as it is built. And you can find it today in any hardware store. Hardware store? Yeah. And you could find it in the 50s. So it's very accurate. It's the common space and time. And that was the whole idea of the film. That's why there's no time-traveling machine also. It's because the film is the time-traveling machine, and it's a time-traveling film where it's not about going back in the past, it's about sharing a common time. So with the DP, we really decided that time was going to be about the light, obviously, which is, we tried to make it a strong continuity. So we were really, really looking at days and a very progressive lighting, and so that they belong to the same time and space, rather than have contrast and have. So it's a very fluid. It's like 6 days that you live through the lighting, and yeah. That's a shorter answer, but I think it's an answer, yes?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. We'll take more questions. We've got somebody there. Yep.
Wow, I get to ask you a question. That's really cool. So, like, I guess like talking about like color palettes, like, I've seen like Girlhood, Portrait of a Lady, and this one as well. Like, they're all very succinct with the kind of colors that you choose, and they all they carry on through the film, which I really appreciate about your work. But I guess my question would be that how did you manage filming outside all the time? Like, I'm a sort of aspiring DP myself, and it gets hard, like, you get the clouds coming over the sun, and, it's really difficult, and you made it look seamless. You made it look really easy. So, yeah, that's my question.
Well, there was a strategy, and the strategy was that we would shoot, it was the same strategy for Portrait of a Lady on Fire, actually, which is that we shoot the exteriors first with whatever Meteo is giving us. Is this a word? Is that how you say Lord Jesus in English? Meteo? Weather. Okay. And then, as we are in studio, we get to adapt to what we were handed. Like, for instance, Portrait of a Lady on Fire was supposed to be an autumn film, a fall film with very grey sky. It was very sunny. And then we shot all the exteriors studio-like, and we just that's the craft of Claire Maton. She makes it very organic, very fluid. But we start with the natural lighting, and then we do our own lighting, which is really a way to control what has happened, in a way, you know. And also, we really try to take the risk of each time we get a little bit of, each time a light is charismatic, we really try to go for it and get it. And then in the editing room, that we will make this one work, which means that you have to take the risk then to say, okay, we shot like the scene where she runs by the sun, and do we take the bet that we will stick with this sun then, and we make up this sun, and then when we shoot in studio, so you still have to be brave. But it's really something. It's something that I really enjoyed, because then it's like you just have to put, because that's our job. We have to put up with weather, bad lunch, somebody sick. But that doesn't mean that this is not something that we can work around with then after, you know. And yeah, that's how we did it. Also, you should also, I feel really good about intervening in reality, which means paint a wall, change a public lighting, you know. So, for instance, that forest was really green, and so we just brought thousands and thousands of autumn leaves, and we put it there. So this one's obvious because we put that, but I mean, Claire Maton, she could be hanging one leaf over there, and over there people were hanging things. So there's a lot of fake, you know, exteriors. Reality is also something you can, that's something that I really, you know, the first time that I actually acknowledged the fact that there was a director behind the film, which I think is the first time that you understand cinema in a way. Like, this is the vision of someone. Was when I watched Jacques Demy's The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and it also worked with the Damsels of Rochefort and anything he does, which means he painted the city. He painted the walls, like this wall is pink, this wall is like, and I was like, oh, okay, I want to do that. I want to do that. And we always try to also do intervention on reality, even though we don't say it. And sometimes it will be like, for instance, in Tomboy, when they play a football, it's all we put paper on the walls and we paint over the paper, and then we just take it off. So it's fake. It's our own colors. It's a cool job. It's a really cool job. I really recommend it.
Do we have time for one more question, or is that one more question? Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to think of somebody who. This person towards the back, yeah, has had his hand up for a while.
Bonsoir. I'm very happy to be the last question. Also, thank you for a beautiful movie. My question is, I understand the relation of time in regards to the tree house in the woods and the house, but how does it relate to the scene in the lake, at the lake, and the pyramid?
Well, that scene was really, you know, I really thought about kids while I was writing the film. I really thought, I want to make this an experiment. My dream room. You're my dream room, obviously. You're perfect. Mental picture, but a room full of kids and adults sharing the same experience of cinema. It's pretty rare, right? We have it in front of Miyazaki's film, for instance. That's why it's also a reference. It's a reference for not only for what's on screen, but for what kind of room you desire. And so I really thought about kids. That's also why the film is short. It's also why the film is, you know, something, and an experience of equality. And so I really wanted to have this epic scene of adventure for kids. like the bike scene in E.T., you know. So that kids would feel, because when you design a film for adults or kids, it's not about it's gonna be entertaining for both of them, because that's doesn't mean that it's the same things that you're offering them. It's really about them feeling respected fully by the film. You feeling fully respected by the film as an adult, and the kid, or a former kid, and a kid feeling respected also. And this scene of this epic adventure scene, it's like cinema it's cinema, you know. And I really wanted it. Also, I really wanted this moment of music, and I didn't want to put music in the film because it would date the film, you know, it would mark it in time, yeah. So we decided to create this song that would kind of feel nostalgic in a way, but that would be, and that it would be the only question that you would ask about the future, would be about the music. And also because I wanted you to sob at some point, and the film is very silent. And I know, but it's an emotional journey that I got for you, you know. So it's also about like, you have to release at some point something, and also this pyramid has been in this lake for my whole life, and I didn't even know that you could get in there, and I didn't even know that it was this thing inside. So it's also about films being an adventure for yourself. So, you know, at some point I love to be on the boat being like, you know, doing. It's this idea also that, you know, it's the film is studio shot. So, and a lot of things are shot in studio now because of the platforms, you know. So it's really hard to book a studio now, and here also, obviously, even more. But so they were shooting big films around us, you know, costume films, you know, they were like old cars or cool rap clips. And we were like looking at a little girl eating cereals, you know. This film wasn't supposed to be shot in studio. I mean, it's basically something I could shoot in my house, you know. But it makes a difference. And this difference is, it's not something you can see, it's something you can feel. And yeah, that's it.
Céline, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This film. Thank you. This film's really going to stay with me, I'm sure. Same, yeah, for all of us. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your questions. I want to give a shout out to Mubi, who are releasing the film on Friday, and I think it'll go on Mubi in February. And a big thanks also to Cindy Lumiere for hosting us. Yeah, Bird's Eye View, we're super, super proud to be working with Mubi on the release. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See you next time.